says the Para Aduma made pure those who were impure and made impure those who are pure. So one of the Hasidic translations of that is that the Para Aduma's idea of feeling self-worth, feeling your own virtues. So you think that when you feel your own virtues, that it's arrogance and that makes you impure. But the truth is that when a person makes a mistake, what ends up happening is you start looking at yourself in the mirror. You start saying to yourself that you're unable doing good things because of the stuff that you've done. And because you now define yourself by your mistakes, you're unable to do anything good anymore because you're because of all the terrible things you did. What you need to do at that time is you need to remind yourself of the wonderful things you did do. You need to remind yourself of the people's lives that you've touched, the people that you've helped, the lips you helped to smile, and the eyes you caused to sparkle. In the lacher, it sounds like you're making yourself tameh, make yourself impure. So it's true that arrogance can make a person impure. Arrogance, the self-worth, when it's in the wrong way, makes someone who is pure impure if it's done in the wrong measurement. On the other hand, someone who is impure, someone who is not the way he's supposed to be, he needs that feeling of self-worth. Otherwise, he's to purify himself. That sense of self-worth purifies him. It opens doors for him. He's thinking like, I could do something with my life. I don't want to talk about the news about various Jews who committed suicide. That's what suicide comes from. Suicide comes from looking at the world and saying there is no. Okay, get some distracted.
Oh my gosh!
But in short,
Yeah, let's check. All right, here's
suicide is a result of not being able to see forward, not being able to see in front of you. And there's a spiritual concept and a more subtle way of suicide where you feel like you can't do anything good, and that's a result of being too hard on yourself. As a result of that, what happens is that you can't help anyone else either, because because of the way you look at yourself. So we're talking about this idea of putting yourself in the same boat as others, and realizing finding your own, identifying other people's mistakes with your own. And finding whatever mistakes you find in other people, finding in some subtle way in yourself. It doesn't mean to feel like a doormat. It doesn't mean to paralyze yourself. Okay, let's continue on page 346. Now let's go back to understand the explanation of the Ruach HaTargum. If you remember, we had two translations of this pasuk. One translation that we began with was, if the spirit of the ruler tries to get you, the ruler means the Yetzer Hara. Don't leave your place. Don't leave your set times you have for studying Torah. Keep the time of studying Torah, because Torah will heal you. And Torah will heal you from all the great mistakes. That's the first explanation. Now we started talking at length in the second explanation. If a spirit of leadership, God grants you a spirit of leadership, you become a leader over in some way. So don't leave your humility. That's the second explanation. Let's go back to the first explanation. The spirit of leadership means the Yetzer Hara. Now let's go back and understand what the Targum explains. The Ruach HaMeshel refers to the Yetzer Hara. If the Yetzer Hara starts to control you, in this world, which is a place of darkness. Afela is another word for darkness. Elsewhere in Chassidus, there's a distinction between Cheshach and Afela. If I remember correctly, physical things could be called dark because you don't see God's vivifying force creating everything every moment. But non-kosher things, those things are Afela. They not only do they does their existence not express the truth of Hashem, it says the opposite. And sometimes there are things which are just like seem to have no value. In a way, that those things could be more confusing. That's why one of the plagues this week, we learned about there's a plague of the frogs. At least snakes and scorpions make you question why does Hashem make them. They make you think about God. But there's some things that God made that just make you think like it's all just random. And that's why Hashem specifically used frogs to attack the Egyptians to bring out the point that even that which seems apathetic to the whole question of God's reality are also part of the equation. That's why I like it in our show. We have some actors from some Yiddish movies, some Jewish movies. I always think the people in the Jewish movies, they're the ones who are they don't care. They know better. You know, the whole thing's not. But Rabbi Cohen and Baruch Neufeld, they're from the Frisco Kid. You know, it makes you realize that these Yidden, the Yidden which are like, the whole thing doesn't matter to them. And they're from Yidden, keep their mitzvahs. I don't know. That's just my own Yitzhahara's way of realizing the truth. Moving right along. No, that's what I'm saying. There are people who like go against Yiddishkeit. It's bad. Okay, so then they're at least talking about Yiddishkeit. People like there's a thing called Yiddishkeit, and let's be nostalgic about it. And these people coming from, for me, it's like wow, that's like the frogs for me. Anyways, the Be'elam has that. Frog is on a goes in this world, which is a place of darkness and a deeper kind of darkness, especially during the time of Galus, when darkness covers the earth. So Chas v'Shalom Yitzhahara is the one that controls everything. Not only does he control you, but which means he is rising above you. As the Gemara says, every single day exerts himself to be victorious over you. What should you do? Don't leave your place. The good place that you're accustomed to go, don't leave. What's the good place? A good place is here, guys. We're at the good place. We're learning Torah. This is a good place. Don't leave this. This is a good thing. Because with the words of Torah create healing in the world. The words of Torah heal the concealment of godliness in the world. By strengthening yourself in a good place, through this you will cast away the great sins. Through this you'll get out of all kinds of challenges. What this means is the Gemara says, if the vile one comes and attacks you, who is the vile one? Rashi says the vile one is the Yitzhahara. Drag him to the base medrash, drag him to the house of study. Because the Torah heals the animal soul. When we say that Torah heals, there's two parts to this. Just like we said before about Ruach HaMeshel, the spirit of leadership, referring to actual leadership, that we said there's two translations of the word kimarpe. One is that you shouldn't be so strong in your position and rule over other people, and the second explanation is that you'll be able to heal other people's mistakes. You'll be able to help other people. So marpe means to be weak, and marpe means to heal. By you being weak about your own arrogance and letting go of your arrogance, you'll be able to heal other people. So too, when we're saying Ruach HaMeshel refers to not your position of leadership, but Yitzhahara's leadership and trying to control you. So hold on to the words of Torah, and then two things. One is weak, and one is healing. What does that mean? What are the two words, weak and healing? What do they have to do with words of Torah and the Yitzhahara? What does it mean? Harishin shumar b'lashon nifyein v'asheni lashon afua. The word marpe means to heal, and marpe also means to be weak. The nefesh l'kisn savesh l'shmamis. The godly soul is dressed in the animal soul. It's within the animal soul. And in this relationship, the godly soul's powers are revealed in the animal soul. He explains. Yeah, the word Torah, not the word Torah itself is called strength, and it's called something that breaks something. The Torah batters the power of the animal soul, and it empowers the godly soul. As a pasuk says, God gives strength to his people. What does it mean? God gives strength to his people. How does he give us strength? So it's translated in Aramaic to mean God gave Torah to his people. How does God give us strength? Through Torah. So when you learn Torah, Torah gives you the power, nourishes you to overcome your animal soul. It also weakens the power of desire of your animal soul. Okay, so the godly soul is connected to the animal soul. And when you learn Torah, first of all, the animal soul gets weaker. That's the first translation of the word marpe. Marpe means to get weaker. You weaken the animal soul. And also, refuah, it also heals the animal soul. The godly soul, not only does Torah cause the animal soul to be weaker, but also that it makes it possible for the godly soul to to touch the animal soul and to change it. Torah does that. Okay, now we're going to discuss the whole idea of Torah. There are three elements to Torah. In one pasuk it says that Torah is called inheritance. As it says in the pasuk, the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu commanded us is inheritance of the Jewish congregation. So that's how Torah is called inheritance. Sometimes that's the reference how the Torah refers to itself. On the other hand, in Pirkei Avos it says you need to prepare yourself to study Torah. It's not an inheritance. It seems to contradict what the other verse says, that it's called the inheritance. Which one is it? Don't say because my dad is wise, therefore I'll be wise too without any effort. Don't say that. In fact, elsewhere the Gemara actually uses the phrase, how come the children of the wise aren't wise? The Gemara gives various reasons for that. One reason is people shouldn't think that it's a genealogical thing, that it's reserved for those people, those families of Torah scholars. And the other explanation it says in the Gemara is that they step on the heads of the people who are in a position of authority, who speak with dignity about others. They are punished that their children don't go in their path, so they can tell that it's not you have blue blood, and therefore you know Torah. So anyway, so don't say, Rashi says, that because my dad is wise, I'll be wise too without any effort. In Cain, so don't say that it's inheritance. I don't need to work for it. It's not. You have to work for it. So on the one hand, Torah is called inheritance. On the other hand, it says it's not inheritance. It says the opposite. You need to work for it. And there's a third expression about Torah. It says in the third place in the Torah, place number 1 says it is inheritance. Place number 2 says it's not inheritance. Doesn't say what it is. Place number 3 in the Torah, it says Torah is a gift. It says there are 3 things that are a gift to the world, and one of them is Torah. Torah, the luminaries, and rain. So which one is it? Is Torah a gift? Is Torah inheritance? Is Torah specifically not inheritance? What's going on? So the answer is there's 3 elements within the Torah itself. These 3 elements in Torah are 3 different levels within Torah, and they are diverse in their very core. When it says in the Pirkei Avos, prepare yourself to study Torah. So besides the fact that that's correct, that haskin does mean to prepare, as it says another pasuk, He couldn't across the prepare to greet your God. That pasuk talks about preparing for davening, how you're supposed to prepare for davening, doing various things like giving tzedakah, learning chassidus. So preparing your clothing, you're supposed to wear clothing fit to see a king when you daven. So the word haskanat humatera means to prepare yourself. The targum is kasha kabbalah ufun daraisa. Unkelos translates, adorn yourself to receive the study of Torah. So, besides the fact that you need to prepare yourself prior to studying Torah, the study of Torah itself requires great effort. Rabbeinu Yena says, you know what it means to prepare yourself to study Torah? You need to have good character in order that you should study Torah and you should reach the virtue of Chassidus. To reach the virtue of piety, you have to have good character prior to the study of Torah. It's like we just said in the morning blessings. We say in the morning blessings, we say, may the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths. And one of the explanations is that Torah should enjoy being in our mouth. If our mouth is a mouth that speaks Lashon Hara and speaks not good things, so Torah doesn't enjoy being there. So in order for the Torah to reside in you, to impact you, you have to have good character first. So that's the meaning of prepare yourself to study Torah. Rabbeinu Yonah says, how you prepare yourself, you've got to be a mensch. Derech Eretz come la Torah. You have Derech Eretz first, and then the Torah could reach you. She'ein Yerushalach, because it's not inheritance. The ein edeme k'maybe Yerusha balad b'lei terech v'yigia hashach yigia. It's not like an inheritance which you receive without any effort. It requires effort. Mitzvah l'Torah v'yidia sh'v'Torah. The mitzvah of Torah study is to know the Torah. You can only know the Torah if you work on it. Says in the pasuk, God will do for those who await Him. That's what the pasuk says. God will perform for those who are waiting for Him. Who are those who are considered to be waiting for God? Those who are so to speak, holding His doorknob. By the way, today is the anniversary of passing the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe said, before he passed away, those who hold on to my doorknob, I will do kindness to them. I will help them. I will do a teva for those who hold on to my doorknob. So the Hashem says, I will do for those who wait for me, those who yearn for me. So Zohar says, who are those who yearn for Hashem? It says the Zohar, those who look at the words of wisdom of the Torah and they're medayik in it. They look at it with precision. They want to understand it. They go through it and they mefalful, they dissect it. Those are the ones that Hashem responds to, says the Zohar. In order to understand the depth of the Torah, it's through an effort. As it says in the Talmud, if someone tells you, I've tried and I haven't been successful, don't believe them. If someone says I haven't tried and been successful, don't believe them either. How's your 12 sukkah going? You're doing well 12 sukkah?
No, you're reminding me. Thank you.
If someone said, I've tried and I am successful, only then believe him. The the actual level is you don't 12 sukkah by heart? No? If I send you a recording, can you listen to it on the way to your next journey in rural Georgia? The actual level is there's 12 Torah verses the Rebbe says to memorize. It's a very, very good thing to do. Anyways, it's something you're supposed to have with you all the time. So you review these verses because these Torah verses have the answers to all the things that we wonder about. Okay, the below yigi efshel level is that without an effort, you cannot make it happen. Actually, when Rebbe originally taught several verses to be part of the 12 Torah passages, and Rebbe added several afterwards. And when Rebbe added this verse that we just quoted from the Talmud, if someone says, I tried and I've tried and been successful, believe him.
I'm going to say I hear from Rebbe all the time.
So when Rebbe taught it, Rebbe said that, Rebbe said this is referring to tshuva. Person might say, I've been unsuccessful and it didn't work and I made a mistake. So the Eibush just tells a person who's made a mistake, just try, you're going to make it. Okay. Someone who is sharp, he has a good mind. Although with his sharpness, he's able to know Torah, understand Torah. You can't compare the gift of people who are sharp to the gift of those people who are deep. Someone who is sharp gets there, he gets it quickly, but someone who learns it deeply, he's a whole different level. That's why I always lose in chest to my father-in-law, because he's deep. He doesn't like my quick explanation for things. He says, one second, let's look at this. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper. That's the meaning of the pasuk. The Torah is an inheritance, the community of Yaakov, because the Torah has a third element. The Torah is an inheritance. There's an element in Torah that we receive without any effort whatsoever. Not only is there a part of Torah that we get without effort, but according to the rule of Torah, all inheritors, all those who inherit, are equal. And the one who passed away, the one who is bequeathing his inheritance, it's without his decision, they're all equal. Not because he says they all should be equal. They all become equal naturally, halachically. If someone says, I don't want that child to inherit with his brothers, the Gemara says his words are meaningless. He has no jurisdiction over this. He's making a condition against the Torah says, and therefore his words are meaningless. So according to Torah, if you inherit from someone else, you're all the same as everyone else. The one who inherits without the decision of the one who bequeaths the inheritance.
But yet the firstborn gets double share.
True, that's an exception to the general rule. Correct. So the Torah comes through effort. That's the first thing we spoke about in Torah. Second of all, Torah is inheritance you get for free. And third of all, Torah is called a gift. A gift is not given to someone because of effort. You don't get a gift because you tried hard. If you get a gift because you worked, that's called getting paid. A gift is not a reward. It's not payment. However, it's not accurate to say either that a gift is given for nothing. When you give a gift, it says in Gemara, the Gemara says, unless the person would have caused you some kind of gratification, you'll never be inspired to give a gift. You only want to give a gift to someone who you feel pleasure from. That's what's inspiring the gift. So it's not payment. It's not payment. Payment is commensurate to what the job was. On the other hand, there is some relationship between what has been done and the gift. It's not a direct relationship. It's not commensurate to exactly what was done to the gift, but there is some kind of response that you're having inside of you that's motivating you to give the gift, and that response is what is based on what the other person has done for you. It has to do with the choice of the giver. Unlike inheritance, as we said before, goes without any the choice, and has to do with the closest you have to when you're giving the gift to. There is a difference between the people that this person wants to give gifts to. He gives different gifts to different people. Let's say this stranger did a favor for you, make you feel good. He caused nachas to you, a stranger. Or let's say your son or a relative of yours caused you pleasure. They did something for you. Who would you give a bigger gift to? So it's not just that the person memorized a chapter of Mishnayos. Your son memorized a chapter of Mishnayos, and someone else's child memorized a chapter of Mishnayos. It's the same chapter, and they're the same effort. They both put in a half hour to memorize a chapter of Mishnayos. And you have nachas on both of them. But who is the one you want to give a gift to more? It's the one who's closer to you. You can't compare. So besides the pleasure from the actual thing the person has done, is also another element, and that's the closeness you have with that person. It has to do with your decision. So therefore, the three elements in Torah are diverse in their very core. The first element in Torah is you cannot know Torah, it's a mitzvah to know Torah, you cannot know Torah unless you work. As much as you work, that's how much you're going to know. Well, we quoted the words of the Maamar before, which says, if someone says, I've tried and I've been successful, believe him, the word successful in Hebrew that we're translating as successful actually means I've found. Someone says, I've tried and I have found, believe him. And that always emphasizes that when you make an effort, not only are you successful, commensurate to your efforts, but you also find a mitzvah, you also find beyond your efforts. Hashem gives a blessing to your efforts that there's something unexpected, like something that the lost object that you suddenly discovered. So number one, though, the first element of Torah is based upon your efforts. You work and therefore you know. Second element of Torah is its inheritance. What comes out of the effort, and everyone inherits it the same. And the third is it's a gift and depends upon the choice of the giver. So we're going to explain to Hashem what all these three things mean in Torah. So for all we've explained is what these three things are in our lives, what inheritance means, what payment means, and what a gift means. And then we'll see how these three things apply to Torah. And the reason we got into this discussion is to recap it again. We started it today going back to the Targum Yonason, who says that if the Yetzer Hara starts up with you, bring them Beis Medrash, study Torah. That's the antidote. That's what you should do to get to these challenges of Yetzer Hara. Bring them to Beis Medrash. Don't leave your place. And to explain why Torah is what's necessary to take care of the Yetzer Hara, we start explaining what Torah is about, and we have these three elements in Torah: inheritance, payment, and gift, which we're going to learn tomorrow what those things are within Torah.
Is not commenting on like Ruach Moshe is not saying somebody in position of leadership. He's just saying generally it's right?
Generally, it's correct.